The top-block Remington Model 32 was really one of the finest guns ever made in America, but this over-under was a victim of its own quality, and sadly, didn't last very long.
Of all the times to come out with a new gun design, the Depression probably wasn't one of the better choices. In 1931, Remington, feeling that they could enter the American market for over and unders, helped steal the wind out of the sails of the European manufacturers and come up with an over and under that was made here to the exacting standards that the European versions were being made, but offered for about a quarter less. And that's what they did.
They introduced the first American machine-made over and under double shotgun designed by one of their premier designers, C.C. Loomis, as the Model 32. It was an innovative design. Of course, it had the over-under advantages of a single sighting plane as opposed to a double barrel and a lower perceived recoil. And it generated fairly good popularity.
The Model 32 has a very interesting locking system. It's a top lock, and what happens is you operate the lever, and this entire locking plate slides rearward, and then you can open the gun. The barrel's rotated on trunnions, and then when you close the gun and the top cover moved over, there were grooves cut in the upper barrel that engaged lugs on the side of the locking plate. And so it was a very sturdy gun. And one of the other problems with over-unders is they tend to shoot loose. With the Remington 32 and subsequent designs that are based on the Remington 32, actually the way that top cover works, it doesn't wear like most typical over-unders. And so they're very sturdy guns.
The 32 had a unique method of separating the barrels by hanging the lower barrel in a ring at the front that was connected to the top barrel. So there was the opportunity there for the barrels to be shot different amounts, and although they might develop different levels of heat, they would still have the ability to expand and contract without affecting the other barrel. So the 32 had a place in terms of cost and in terms of design that no other gun occupied.
In 1932, the Remington Arms Company introduced its over-under, and there was a campaign that said, would you pay $1,000 for this gun? And today, most people would love to pay $1,000 for a Remington Model 32. It was introduced initially for under $100 and its standard grade. And it was a gun that was expensive, but for someone who had a good job, that wanted to shoot skeet, or just wanted a better sighting plane for general shooting, this Remington over-under really was the thing.
The Model 32, it came in 7 different grades. And you know, the only other gun I think is similar to that would have been the Parker and their side-by-sides, which came in 9 different grades. And of course, the 9th or the highest grade was the Parker Invincible. And that was the finest side-by-side that's ever been made in this country. And so you could argue that the Model 32 Remington is certainly the finest over and under that was ever made here.
So more than 4 decades after the introduction of the 32, Remington had ceased, of course, by that time to produce that model, but it reintroduced essentially the same gun as the 3200. And this is a pattern that Remington followed for some years, updating a previous design, adding some nomenclature or some digits to the description number, and carrying on with a similar gun. But by the time you get into the mid-1970s, Remington finds out what Ruger found out with a competitive model of its own, that over-under shotguns in that period of time still were relatively costly to produce. And the desire among the populace for a working man's over-under wasn't quite what it was envisioned when those guns were first introduced.